Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Enea and Lubelski Węgiel Bogdanka conference that is devoted to the most important events of 2024 and the results of the year. I welcome the analysts, journalists, representatives of the board of the Enea Group companies and everyone that is watching us via the video broadcasting event. We have Grzegorz Kinelski, the president of Enea, Dalida Gepfert, who is the deputy president for corporate affairs, Marek Lelątko, CFO, and Bartosz Krysta, who is the trade manager, deputy CEO, and Artur Wasilewski from Lubelskie Węgiel Bogdanka. 2024 was a time of positive change, dynamic change in our group, and all of that was caused by the performance of the ambitious plans of Enea Group during the rollout of the development strategy up to 2035. So we would like to show you the last 12 months in a nutshell. Let's see the show. The presentation of the financial results that you will see in a minute and that will be moderated by our board is also available on our website. So if you're watching us online, you can launch the presentation and follow it together with us. And now over to Mr. Kinelski. Welcome to our conference. Enea Group after 2024. This year was a very intense one for our group, and as I'm sure you have observed, we have acted some intensely and taken some important decisions. This was a preparatory year for us to announce the strategy, which actually happened towards the end of the year. In the past year, what we focused on was to define our goals, to determine our strategy for the 10 years to come, and these were the biggest challenges, other than the current ongoing work, which you have already seen in the video. We needed the preparedness to face the challenges of the ever so fast changing world, digitization and transformation. Now, regarding our strategy, we have put down the plans and goals up to 2035, and I think that's been the most important event that also shows our pathway and what we are going to do and how we want to do it in the future, both for all of the pillars of our work: generation, trade, distribution. And what we're moving towards is something that you're going to see in the presentation. The presentation includes both the summary of 2024, all of the figures that we can and want to show and that we can showcase for last year, but also partially, and please be attentive here, some of the forecasts that we would also like to present to you, and the ongoing activity, what we're doing right now. You are aware, I'm sure, that we're putting quite a lot of emphasis on building renewables. We have new installations that are being under construction. We are developing projects, both greenfield projects and those that have partially been based on acquisition. But we're also growing in our acquisition part. We are using all the possible ways to grow our renewable section. We are also looking at developing storage, and we are trying to obtain financing for that purpose. So this year we're launching our actions, very much aware of what we want to do, of what our role is in the market, of the fact that we do not want there to be any unknown aspects of our pathway. We want everything to be clear, and we want to show that we're an important player in this energy transformation, and we want to remain the leader of transformation. Now, of course, we make sure that we take care of the environment, and so it's not the S in ESG, but all the aspects that are very important to us. We will go on to tell you more about this in the presentation. I think it will be the first time for us to elaborate on that so much. But I think it's also the first time that we've reported our ESG measures to you. So I believe that the fact that we are also looking at the environment, at the local community and our workforce is the foundation of this transformation. We haven't overlooked this area, quite the opposite, we have been treating it quite seriously. So many thanks for that. Like I said, we will be talking about the past year, 2024, but also the current activity and a little bit about the future. Okay, so we move on to the detailed summary of our results. We have had a drop in revenue, but that's the result of what's happening on the energy market. This is the following year after the energy crisis. The energy prices are stabilizing. This translates to our business, but not in a negative way, quite the contrary. If we have a smaller turnover with good results, the risk is decreasing. Now, from the point of view of production generation, we have upheld the trend. We are slowly being pushed out from the conventional generation, but it's a gradual process. It's not at this point negatively impacting our results. Bogdanka had a very good year in mining, and we had a record high EBITDA last year. And this year we have already exceeded that by 500 million zloty. We have good indebtedness ratio. That's also the outcome of the EBITDA over the last 2 years. And what's also important, slowly but surely we're building the renewables sector. So other than biomass, we also have a better outcome in the green area, but we're quite aware that we're just starting this pathway. Ladies and gentlemen, traditionally some information about the market environment. In 2024, we saw a relatively stable price trend. The average price on the futures contract market was 450 zlotys for base range. It was slightly higher, 40 zlotys higher than spot index, and as you can see in the graph, energy prices have also already reached the level of almost 400. You can see the price curve illustrating the product listing That's the base for 2026. And we can see the price level of 400 PLN. That's more or less 10–15% lower than what we had in the similar period of the previous year. We're looking at a reduction of prices at the spot market, which is predominantly related to the increase in the availability of renewables and a better supply of energy generated from these sources. Q1 of this year is absolutely of no reference, because it was 470 was the average price, slightly lower than the similar period of last year, but we are expecting that this year this price could go below 400. Still, spot prices are very volatile, and especially in some summer months, in some specific days or hours even, they're even negative, while in other periods they reach 2,500 zlotys. CO2 level, also the curve evolved around 70 euros. There were periods when it was more expensive or slightly less expensive. As we know, right now we're looking at some reduction, more or less 62 euros is the reference level. The coal prices in global markets are relatively stable. Still, in the domestic market, we have noted a significant reduction in coal prices. When we started the year, it was more or less 20–21 PLN, and we started with prices that were 15–20% lower. Today, the price level in the markets oscillate about $102. So that would be the API markets. Now for spreads, that's very important, because this impacts the economics of the segment of generation and mining. And we can see that these spreads at some point last year became negative, and that's both true for coal. Generally, for the majority of the year, it was negative for the base coal. Gas also went into the negative towards the end of the year. This was related to significant increases of gas prices at the beginning of the heating season. Still, and I'm repeating this already, we are looking at a tendency, and we have been for a year now, where the generation of electricity for conventional resources in the base profile right now is yielding negative spreads. So all of the results achieved here, yielded here, unfortunately, have to be compensated by services or other revenue rather than just generation of electricity. Some facts, basic facts regarding the regulatory environment, the most important things that have happened or occurred over the last year. That's the directive, the regulation, the energy market design package, which was very important for us because a lot of aspects are covered, including such as derogations, which then results in supplementary auctions that have been introduced for over 5,500 kilograms per megawatt hour. The current and the next day market changes, and a number of regulations that we have also been implementing in the domestic legislation. The REMIT 2 directive and the whole package of regulation on the wholesale market is also a very important package for our activity, but the most important topic is the regulation on the sales, on the retail sale of electricity. What I mean by that is the price freeze of electricity the administrative management obligation for public aid, the de minimis reporting obligations, so that's for eligible customers, especially SMEs. And also in 2024, despite the fact that the tariff regulation and the paragraph that's listed here goes back to September 2023, the settlement and the use of this provision in practice translates to a one-off electricity token of 125 PLN voucher, but a provision was made for that purpose, and it was part of our costs in 2023. So RED III directive, which will be implemented in May this year, but the work on this directive and a number of significant issues resulting from it, impacting predominantly biomass, are important for us because Enea Group is using biomass as a strategic source of fuel.
Now, when it comes to the quarter results, this was the closing, the last quarter, so we've updated some of the inventories. In December, we had the PDO inventory and higher inventory for CO2 and for prosumers. And so these provisions impacted the profitability in the last fourth quarter. If we take that into account, as well as the fact that we got 200 million as a compensation for 2023, which had the reverse effect, this would mean that the profitability of this quarter, last quarter, was very similar to the profitability of the previous quarters. Now, EBITDA margin, it was 20.6, and EBITDA was at a very satisfying level. It was higher than 2023, when it was 16.1. Now, the economic debt, this was the year when we had more CO2 than required by the business in 2024, so the economic debt is better. From the perspective of EBITDA, as in 2023 we had two legs. First, this was the conventional energy sector, extraction and generation, mainly in Kozienice and Połaniec, in our two power plants. We had a slightly better result on renewables as well. So from the perspective of the generation, despite the fact that this year was more difficult than the year 2023, when the energy prices were slightly higher, we still had a similar result like in 2023. In Bogdanka, we had a lower result, which was due to the coal prices. In other segments, we've improved our results in comparison to the previous year. So we've improved processes, lowered costs, and optimized all the areas of operation. And also the trade, which is slightly in the negative and which has been impacted by all kinds of regulations and provisions. But this is still this segment which bodes well for the future. I think the spirit of regulations is behind us, so this is a huge chance for our organization. Now let us take a look at more details at what has happened in terms of the generation. Last year, this was the result of what we had discussed before in interviews, during press conferences, during our talks. So 3.6 billion zlotys, 1.5 is the resale of energy, and this is the situation that we have to get used to, actually. Maybe not at this level, but still it will remain with us for good. And the reason for that is what Bartek has just showed you about the market release, rebalancing the market, what happened on the 14th of June last year. We can see there are many negative prices, and then when there is a lot, and the prices are very high when there is not enough energy. So as this generating site, we will generate energy when it pays off, and Sometimes when it's cheaper, we will just repurchase energy from the market. Then we can earn on the energy itself, but it will be more difficult, as Bartek has said. We will earn on other things that are on the market. Another thing that has a positive impact on the results, both for 2023 and 2024, in 2024 it was not that visible, it's exchange rate difference with euro. So we have a collateral in euro, and so when we sell energy and then we bought euro when it was more expensive, then the actual exchange rate was lower at the moment of transaction, which had a positive impact on our EBITDA. On the other hand, it is also reflected in our financial activity. It has a negative impact on the cash, but 850 million on the plus. This is visible in our result. And the last visible thing, this is the rebalancing power market. We earned 415 million. At the beginning, we earned more when the market was stabilizing, and then these levels, well, simply it was not possible to earn that much. But still, this market will remain with us for the next years. Extraction will be discussed in more detail by Artur, but firstly, this short comment on year-on-year generation for systemic power plants. We had a better result in comparison to 2023 by 260 million Polish zlotys. There was this drop on the green unit, which was only due to the drops on the energy market. We had better results in terms of thermal energy and 90 million more on renewables. We had a good hydrological situation, so we sold more energy or generated more energy in our hydroelectric plants, but we are still investing in our assets, which gives positive EBITDA. Now, distribution, it's been very stable. You can say no surprises. So this is mainly due to our investments, but also due to this WACC. This encourages investors to invest in energy transformation, and this translates into our good results. And we've also been working hard on other pieces of the puzzle of this difference between the balance difference, own costs. We want the distribution segment to be as profitable as possible. And finally, the trade segment is difficult to comment on it, just like last year. And the reason for that is that there are a lot of regulations. It's slightly better in comparison to the previous year, but still, as I have mentioned before, the results here are not satisfying. Now, from the perspective of the quarter, you can see it's the same thing. So I will not dwell into details. You will get all that. It will be published, this presentation, so you will be able to read all the details. Just one thing about the provisions that we made in December, around 600 million zlotys is described in detail in the report. Some of that was the compensation from the previous year. It had an impact on the result. This distorts the result for the last quarter. It was business as usual from the business perspective, but if you compare specific quarters of the previous year, you could just add one comment that in terms of sales, we had a new tariff which had a negative impact on the results in the last two quarters of the previous year. And it's reflected in the results from the trade segment. Now, cash flow. You know, the results may be good, but still, despite these good results, the situation of the company might be good and the other way around. So this is why we want to briefly tell you what was happening last year with cash flows. EBITDA, 6.8 billion, income tax, investment and interest rates. Then we had also interest rates that were paid due to our debt, because part of the financing is from debt. And finally, change in the rotating capital, receivables and liabilities. We got money from this compensation from the end of 2023. Some we got back from VAT, but there was this drop in energy prices. This is what I said at the beginning. So with lower energy prices, then from the operational perspective, the risk is lower, and also this rotating capital is lower, and then this also meant that we had lower liabilities, and this translated directly into our cash flow. And one last thing, CO2, minus 2.4 billion. We paid a lot for CO2 for the 2023, almost 3 billion zlotys. 600 million was CO2 for 2024. This is what we will pay this year. So you can say that we got rid of much more cash this year than would result from the financial results that you could see. And free cash is at a level of 1.8 billion. We paid off some of the external financing. And now I will move on to specific segments. Thank you so much. Before I discuss the results, a few words about the market. As you can see on the side of the generation and the sale, there was a drop for coal of about 10%, which is correlated with electricity production from coal. As you know, it dropped by 10%, so everyone's getting used to that. So nominally, the production was higher. The provisions inventories got to 5 million tons, around 30% more. Now, the situation on the coal market, Bartek has already mentioned that. As you can see, this is a global international market, and there is also our domestic market. So downward trends, around 21 zlotys for gigajoule. The first 2 months have shown us further drops, around 17 zlotys for 1 gigajoule. Fara for Baltic, we can see that these prices are more or less stable, around $100 for ARA and around 70 for Baltic. And these trends that I have just described, they had a huge impact on the results of the company. Both these historical trends, but also those trends that we foresee for the future in terms of volume and prices. So at the end of June and at the end of December, we conducted tests for the loss of value of assets, and these tests brought such results that we wrote off 2.4 billion for operational profit and almost 2 billion when it comes to the net result. And these write-offs do not have a direct impact on the financial results of the company, nor on the fluidity of the company. EBITDA is not affected by it, it's clean, but still there was also a drop by around 30%. Now, production and sales are higher than in 2023, which was a difficult year. So around 8 million tons. When you refer it to our capacity, it's a bit above our capacities. It's the same for the whole coal market. And now the last slide. So EBITDA, as I've mentioned, has not been impacted by this write-off due to the loss of value of the assets. But as you can see on the charts and on our operational data, we had the activities on the side of the costs and the sale of the coal on the one hand, but this drop in the coal price by 30% had a huge impact. And at the bottom in green, you can see these cleared results without these operational results. You can see they are in the positive. The net result almost 0.5 billion. That's everything. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, very briefly, the systemic generation segment, a lot of the information has already been disclosed from the financial perspective. the decrease of revenue, but higher EBITDA margin compared to 2023. As you can see, we have an increase in the volume that we are not generating, that we are repurchasing from the market in order to cover the sales contracts from generation. So that's 2 gigawatt hours higher in 2023 compared to 2024 compared to 2023. That's stable and comparable in terms of the coal generation level. It's slightly lower, 5% lower generation. Other sources from biomass, renewables, are at a very similar level. Now, regarding the power market, last year we had the contracting of just 635 megawatts, mostly 3 units for annual auction, Połaniec, and a few contracts for Enea Nowa Energia. Combined is 35 megawatts and 9 megawatts for Enea Ciepło. Unfortunately, in the December auction, like we informed you, we did not succeed due to some price conditioning, price terms. We did not succeed to place the remaining units, including our gas investments. So there's a huge challenge ahead this year, supplementary auctions, derogation for 2026 through to 2028, and a big challenge there for us, looking at the Kozienica plant, but also the Połaniec plant, units 2 through to 7, is already got coverage for 2026-2028 for the units that will also take part in the combustion of biomass. So a big challenge for us regarding this market here. Now for the renewables market, we have a slight increase here vis-à-vis the previous year. The production is significantly higher because it's 27% increase. It results mainly from 2 factors, as it's already been said: better hydrological conditions, better water flows, significantly higher generation from hydroelectric plants, and also from solar plants, an increase. You can see in the graph that the difference between 2024 and 2023 is very slight in terms of the power generated, but in 2023 a significant proportion of that power increased in Q4. So that was a period when the solar generation was minimum. So the additional power at the beginning of 2024 was bigger, and the full period of generation and the increase in 2023 have resulted in an increase of 4 times in the renewables generation from that source. Now, some information about the investment plans and about the most advanced aspects of it. There are 2 projects here, Darzyno and the solar plant in Żary and Nowiny Wielkie. Those are practically completed, ready. Nowiny Wielkie is 95% completed. Just some formalities are being finalized, but it's fully electrified now. Solar farms. The remaining projects that you can see here are 80–90% advanced, and quite likely that they will be commissioned and completed this year. 2 weeks ago, we informed you about an acquisition. 1 project resulted in acquiring 6 wind farms. The combined power is 83.5 megawatts. and that will significantly increase our generation potential and the installation in renewables. We have practically almost, well, more than doubled our wind capacity existing thus far. Now, a few facts concerning this acquisition. Like I said, 6 wind farms. This transaction has been finalized. The market actually has, in fact, been informed about it. It was at the end of March that we informed. Combined number of turbines is 83.5 megawatts. The turbine predominantly commissioned in 2022-2023, apart from one of the farms that was commissioned towards the end of 2020. It's still operational. We are looking that the maintenance and lifespan will be of 30 years. The price of this wind farm converted into megawatt is 10.4 million, about 130 zlotys per megawatt hour, which is a very good rate, very good productivity of this farm, and it's quite a valuable asset for the renewables portfolio. Like I said, the overall energy generated from that farm and from the remaining installations will, of course, be dedicated to the retail market for retail and business clients as well as, well, households. And a few facts about what's happening. You could say that on the investment, in the investment area during the project development phase, like I said, we are still verifying our development pipeline. We are showcasing the most certain things that are definitely going to happen. There's a lot more projects and perspectives in the pipeline, twice as much, rather than just this one of 29 giga. But these are issues that we're looking to complete within the next 2 years. Those are solar, about 508 megawatts. Those are energy storage facilities. Those that will be able to work with solar installations, but also standalone. There are 5 projects that are at a really advanced stages. We have got the terms and conditions issued already. Construction could even start this year. We're also looking at receiving the terms of construction in 16 other projects of the combined capacity of 500 megawatts. Now, for the storage, it's just for the renewables sector, but our ambition is to also provide for storage in the generation, systemic generation segment for the energy transformation area. Now, wind farms. In that area, I'm really hoping that at the end of May, beginning of June, we will be able to complete the construction and formalize all the aspects on the wind farm that's just under 20 megawatts, and we are developing projects for a combined power of 166 and 5 in wind. So it's very dynamic here. We are really quite active in the wind sector. This perfectly supplements our profile so that we can structure and manage our energy very well. We do need to have the adequate mix of both solar, wind, hydroelectric sources, and those are the exact proportions that we try to keep up to roll out our development strategy, both by developing projects from the start, but also acquiring projects that are at a certain stage of development. And we also acquire completed projects. Now, for distribution, let's look at a very significant growth of the regulated value of assets vis-à-vis 2024. We're showing you 2025 already, so part of some of the data that's already from the current year. this is mainly due to the investments that we're rolling out, and in 2025 we have a higher WACC in the tariff than last year, and for regulated revenue we have received additionally 90 million zlotys for 35 investments from this year, and that's also a matter of negotiations of distribution companies and the regulator, and that's the response of the regulator to respond to the needs of the regulator in terms of financing very ambitious investment plans. So this year, for the first time historically, if you multiply the regulated value of assets and WACC, you need to add on top the regulatory aspects, and in this case, this year, this is 90 million for this year's investments. This translates to regulated revenue. We have higher depreciation resulting from investments. This should translate into distribution outcomes results in 2025. The reason we're doing this is to support energy transformation. Distribution is a very important element of the energy transformation, and the ratio that we have in our strategy that we always present in our conferences that demonstrates how much renewable connected power we have vis-à-vis the need of the operator towards 2024. The end of the year it was 2.1. This ratio was 2.1. This was due to the fact that just last year in the area we have an increase of renewable by 1.4 giga, and that's a very significant development of these installations. A lot of the new projects are being connected to our grid. From the point of view of quality, on the left-hand side you can see how the customers see it. On the right, this is the value adjusted by any potential disaster. So when we are managing a distribution company, we're looking at the parameters. So we're looking at SAIDI, we're looking at the interruptions for statistical customers, and SAIFI, the numbers of these interruptions. Now we had, other than Stoan, we had the best results in terms of the quality of the distributed service to the customers. You can see that these parameters are improved every year, and now at the bottom you can see interruptions without planned interruptions, so where we have to, I don't know, perform some investments or do maintenance work. So the upper figure shows you the data together with the planned interruptions. So when we roll out big investments, it's quite obvious that sometimes the customer will have to feel the effect of the work that we have to do. From the point of view of distribution, a lot has been happening and a lot is still happening. As you might have noticed, last year we did not complete the investment plan. Only 80% was rolled out. The reason for that is very simple. We started to implement the plan really late due to the changes in our management board, but we have learned our lesson. We want to do long-term management. We're contracting investment plans for the 5-year development plan perspective. We're preparing it in such a way so that the investments are not carried out in the last months of the year, which means expensive and rushed unnecessarily from the point of view of contractors' work, suppliers, etc. This year we have already contracted 80%, so 80% of our plans has already seen contracts signed, supply or investment contracts. We are looking at investment supply as well. That opens the market very much. So entities with smaller potential can also enter to do work on our grid. We communicate quite significantly with the market so that this year and in the years to come we can perform our investment plans in a sustainable way from January to December without a hockey bat. Not everything has to happen in the last few months of the year, basically. So, looking at big tenders, we've already had the outcome for the tendering of the meters. We will be assembling them. We have selected our suppliers already, and the second half of this year we will significantly speed up the process of assembling them. We want to reach the target of 35. We currently have 70% of metering already achieved, and the project is to complete in 2028. We are also making a lot of effort in the area of financing. All of the large entities present in the market have already been informed about how much funding they have been giving from the RRP. I hope this will not be last but not least. I do hope it will be last but not least. So I'm hoping that basically this will be at the level that is not inferior to what other companies can enjoy, so that our share in the program should be communicated in late April, early May. We are concluding our contract with the bank that's operating the program.
We are also active in other programs. So we are now launching, RRF is cheap loans that I've just mentioned, but it's also about subsidies. And it's organized by our agencies, AFI Repower. This is for rural grids, and we are hoping to participate in this financing in a large extent. It will help us with our investments. And finally, transformation. As the operator, we've been very active. We have 7.2 gigawatts connected to our grid, but at the same time we have agreements and conditions issued for another 7.8 gigawatts, and we have applications for another 11 gigawatts. It's a lot. So we've been working on it, we've been on it, on the communication as well, just to make it easier for our customers, that is to renewables producers. And we know a lot still remains to be done. But still, our customers can see that, and they will see in the coming months that we've been becoming more efficient with management. We are also working on increasing the flexibility of our network, of our grid. So switching off the producers when there is too much energy in the grid, it affects our operator to a large degree. And this is also, I've been looking for solutions. We've been working with PSE. We now have this interventionist supply of active power. This goes for some of our customers, and we've been working for the same for the passive power as well. And we've been wondering how to use storage facilities just to use this energy that is generated within our grid, so that we have as low a level of not used energy as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite sad, to be honest, to be discussing the results in trade and sales. There is huge potential in this segment with stable volume, 25 tera, increase to the tune of 10% year on year, with a very similar structure of customers. Unfortunately, margins are far from satisfying. From the segment minus 4 million, the margin at the level of 0, more or less. And this is something that makes us sad a lot. And of course, the reason for that is all kinds of regulations, price freezes, etc. I will tell you that for 2024, because of these regulations, we've lost 430 million zlotys. Around 100 million was because the tariff was lower in the second half of the previous year. Let me just remind you that we have now tariffs for 18 months, starting in July 2024. And it has cost us, on the side of the result, around 100 million. 70 million is provisions for prosumers, and these prosumers who are settled in net metering system. And another painful thing is that over 250 million, well, this will be settled in September and October, and this is due to price freezes, and this is due to limiting the margin to 3% in specific segments. mainly for SMEs. So we do hope that this situation will change, that price levels will change, and the market is right now in such a shape that these should be free market prices, not detrimental to any customers. Now, the conditions are not easy, because 15 billion of profits and zero EBITDA margin, well, it does not make you feel very optimistic. But as an entity, we've been very active on the transformation side, because trade is really the driving force of the transformation. Green energy, or even this energy transformed via gas, it has to be made available for customers. We have to follow this technological transformation path. We must introduce all kinds of IT solutions and instruments just to facilitate the service. And we've been doing that. We sold Enea Smart to 2,000 customers. It's a tool which makes it possible to regulate, calculate, and steer your energy consumption. Now, 16,000 households and 6,000 business customers have signed agreements for green energy with us. We started the sales in the fourth quarter of the previous year. Also good results for tenders. We've won almost 60% of the offers that we made. For example, the city of Warsaw, the city of Wrocław. So these are the biggest transactions. All in all, 339 tenders won. And at the end of the previous year, we launched also an app. A few thousand customers use them right now. It's a very comfortable, very smart tool to use. You can monitor and settle your energy consumption. Now, when it comes to our company, to our green window, Enea Eco, let me just give you some data. First of all, we have a license for trade in green energy. It's the last stage. We've been now ordering things and signing agreements, and I hope it will take us a maximum of 2 months. This is when we'll start the sale of green products. This will be the biggest area of operation of Enea Eco, but we've been very active in energy efficiency. Now, we've made an offer for 2,500 customers, an offer for energy effectiveness. We had 7 or 6 webinars for a few thousand customers of ours. These webinars were hugely popular, and during these webinars we discussed green transformation, energy saving, etc. So we have our own policy of energy efficiency, almost 500 TOEs of savings that were submitted to the Office of the Energy Regulation. But we've been active in selling audit services and other products, over 1 million in revenues from the sale of such services. And we hope that after summer holidays we will sign even more agreements. We are ready for it. But the most important business event will happen when we start to sell electrical energy, and we are getting there. We are almost there. Now, on the sad note, one more thing, 2 slides from me. But it's a must-have. It doesn't make us happy. It's not operational, strategical work. This is something that you have to do simply, just to close a chapter and to clear the company. We've conducted 36 audits and controls. You know some of them to some extent from my previous presentations, but also from our publications. The most important is the activity of Enea Foundation, cooperation with the Polish National Foundation. I will go into details in a sec. And now giving conditions for the operator investment in Ostrołęka, the biggest topic, biomass and supplies and civil agreements. For controls, financing of the electoral campaign, cooperation with counterparties and employment of advisories in our capital group. And these audits, now when it comes to the most important ones, is the Enea Foundation. That means, to be more specific, to use these gifts or donations in an irregular way. So certain legal steps have been taken. We've informed the authorities about the suspicion of a crime, and it's all to the amount of 3.6 million zlotys. And we have decided to liquidate, to close the foundation. We have another entity established, so there was huge neglect and many problems surrounding, and we've closed this chapter. Now, the Polish National Foundation, we have filed for a return. It's about 35 million zlotys. It's also about an illegal use of the funds. It's about changing the statute of the foundation. It's at the stage of the first instance on our side. The purchase of production fuels, this is the Arkan company, that is the biomass supply. So complaints have been prepared to be submitted to arbitration courts. It's an international trade, so it will make things more difficult, but this is something that we have to do. Now, the biggest topic in terms of money, it's 656 million Polish zlotys. It's investment in Ostrołęka C power plant, the coal power plant. It's a huge loss. So there is this parallel proceeding, and in parallel there is this criminal procedure, and we've been claiming for compensation. And now civil agreements, we've been taking a look at all that in recent years, and we are taking all the necessary legal steps to recover these amounts. It's simply because this money was paid in an unjustified way. So this is the good out of the bad news, and we can move on to investments.
We have said a lot about results and what's happening in the company, so to make this image even more complete, let me just spend a few minutes talking about investment outlay. Let me just remind you that last year we did not fully implement our plan, and every quarter we said that. The reason for that was also what Grzegorz has said in the context of audits. When we entered the organizations, we decided to look at the plans and to check the reasonable grounds for the expenditure that was being made. And some of these projects were not completed on time due to some corporate decisions, such as the financial plans, for example, were adopted at a later stage, so we just ran out of time with the fulfillment of some projects. Still, over 3.4 billion in investment was made, 55% was spent on distribution, but I don't think it will be a surprise to anyone in this room when we recall the information also indicated by President Lalonde, the volume of investments that we make for renewables and for the connection of renewables, but also modernizing and maintaining our assets. That's also a significant amount of expenditure that it consumes. So also almost 1.9 billion was spent on the distribution area, a lot less on renewables. We had a more spectacular plan, but you will know very well that there was a significant adjustment of prices in the investment in renewables. Some of these investments were never completed, even though they were in our portfolio. And also, we needed to adjust some of the investments in the conventional energy area. Some of the amounts from Elko gas were transferred. As Bartosz has said, we did not really conclude a contract in the power market, so some of the land acquisition in Eco gas were shifted towards a later stage, and it will cause a slight deviation this year. Now, what I'm thinking is important to share and to emphasize here, as you can see, for this year, we're planning almost 8 billion of investments this year, and I'm thinking this amount is respectable, but we also need to look at two issues. We're slightly trying to catch up with last time, because the majority of the investments in the previous years just quite simply never happened. The group has a huge technological debt in terms of the transformation of our assets, but let's be honest, in these significant amounts, other than the distribution, there's almost 3 billion, we've had quite significant investments for the group that are of strategic importance. These are gas units. We're planning almost 900 millions to be invested in the Kozienice gas units. We have a very ambitious plan in the Kozienice units, because we have won the power auction and we need to adjust them to the requirements, and these are definitely the investments that are going to roll out this year. Now, Bartosz has said a lot about renewables. 2.5 billion planned investments, almost 1 billion has already been spent, because we have completed the acquisition. So if we look at the profile of our investment, you can see that distribution and renewables are the areas which will be dominating this year in this group, but also generation, meaning transformation of existing units, are going to be a significant factor here. So this slide would probably complete the picture of all of our results and what we have managed to accomplish, what we managed to accomplish last year. But I wanted to also touch on a few components of our group strategy. As you might remember, last year we adopted a strategy including 5 basic pillars that you can see in the slide here, and 25 goals that we wanted to achieve. Now we have, I think, completed verification and commissioning of projects. We have 160 projects that have been launched. Over 20 of them are strategic projects for the group today. They are being verified, monitored by a special task force. We called it a strategic committee. So other than the group's board, we have also invited the key figures from the management of each of these companies. So our plan is very ambitious to implement all of the goals that we designed. We have put down the most important projects on the slide that are part of the strategy and specific pillars. Now we have the transformation of coal assets. That's one of the critical pillars, and we're looking here at the construction of gas and steam units and the possibility to transform the units in Kozienice by adding the biomass to the combustion basket. So for the development of the renewables capacity, we're generally looking at developing this part of infrastructure. A lot has been said already about this. It's worth looking at the new dimension of our products. Bartek spoke with some degree of sadness about the results, but this also translates to a few plans that we've put in the pipeline. The new eco pipeline project offers. We will be growing that sector, but we're also looking to prepare and implement changing the model of sales development. As you know, we're the only energy group where the mother company is also the seller and takes part in the trade exercise. This means we supervise the distribution company, but from the point of view of building a philosophy of sales, this is consistent, and we're trying to isolate sales to one of the companies within the group. And we're centralizing the wholesale market, and so trading, in order to optimize and synergize the whole process within the entire group. And I'm thinking that what's also meaningful is distribution, but a lot has been said in this area, so perhaps I shouldn't really be repeating any of that. I just want to say a few words about operational excellence. I think a lot of the companies are talking about it, but what's really important is that people matter in the organization. So when we talk about operational excellence, we are building plans for growing competence in the organizations, but just like all the other energy groups, we are looking at facing a situation where there is going to be a mismatch of competences and human resources in all our locations. There's going to be a shortage. We have slightly a high age average in our workforce, so they will be retiring slowly but surely, which means that we will need to fill the competence gap before it has a negative impact. Now we're obviously following all this, the indicators in our group strategy. A lot of these have been covered in the speeches. Distribution, SAIDI, ratios. We talked about the net indebtedness to EBITDA ratio. So to sum up the investment plan, perhaps the 8 billion that have been earmarked for this year, it's perhaps worth drawing a link between our net debt to EBITDA and investment plan. Although 8 billion seems to be an immense amount, but this is the level of investment that, well, seeing our financial capacity is safe from the point of view of our balance sheet, and it's necessary for the group. Please also note the renewables installed capacity, 2.2, but 0.5 was the power of green energy. Most of that from the green unit in Połaniec, and our plan up to 2030 is 2.1 giga and 4.9 in 35. So I think that what's been planned for this year is of no surprise to anyone. So, the topic that remains is something that I think is a feature for the first time during our conference, and that's ESG. As you know, Enea Group reported this year for the first time according to the European standards. So we have submitted an ESG report disclosing our impact on the environment, but also the impact of the environment on our organization. And I must say that the first report, the analysis and the outcomes of this analysis and the gaps that we have in the group is that we are actually building ESG from scratch. And the most important thing that seems to be part of our strategy is to prepare one. We treat this as an opening report, but the majority of topics that feature inside it, so the significant risk factors, the impact on the organization, the disclosures of any kind, mean that we will be putting in practice a lot of the important aspects of it. As you know, in our strategy, we have said that we wanted to upkeep the increasing value of Enea and to keep our market standing, but I think that ESG responds to how we want to do it. And it's against this backdrop that we will be working more specifically on the decarbonization strategy, but also human rights and the environment protection. There's still a lot of areas where we can do quite a lot in terms of circular economy. One positive area which I believe transpires through the ESG report and is worth mentioning is our positive impact of us as an employer on the employees. Our employees have a stable, quality workplace, and that's been very well assessed in our report. This year we started with training, preparing the management, the supervisory board. We have also prepared the first goals for our strategy that are important from the point of view of ESG. In September, we appointed the ESG department and we started the cooperation and the development of a whole set of information. And I must say that this has been a very difficult task, and the fact that these regulations that have been implemented in Europe are not easy to transpose. I think a lot of the companies are, still learning. Auditors as well. We have done a lot of work, and there were a lot of doubts as to how we should approach certain of these issues, and I think that next year will be a lot simpler. Now, the most important outcomes will not be a surprise. The biggest impact is in the area of environment. It's not just our impact and our emissions and river pollution and using water resources, but what's also meaningful is to adapt to climate change. We know that, for example, the cooling of our units, which are in the open system, or any sudden weather conditions such as hurricanes or other natural disasters that could have an impact on our distribution infrastructure, this will be meaningful for many aspects of our operations.
And of course, one more thing that we need to take care of this year is a strategy and preparation of all kinds of activities. So the things that need to be done, these activities that will be described in our numerous policies. There are still many areas in which we can train people. And I think that education plays a very important role, basically education at all levels of the organization. And we've devoted a lot of energy in raising awareness, but still there are many areas in which we can improve. Now, this is our plan for the next year. So within 6 months, we should develop our ESG strategy. And as part of this strategy, we'll have specific goals to be achieved. But we want it to be coherent, consistent, so we have a dozen of policies that we have to implement in the organization. Because when it comes to the policies that such groups like ours should have, we have none of them. So it's a huge amount of work. We need to prepare what we want to do, what goals we want to have, how we want to decarbonize, but it's also about regulations or standards, policies. They simply need to be there in the group. And that's it from my side. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to summarize. What are the perspectives? What will we be facing in 2025? What are the main indicators, business indicators, will we be looking at? So, in terms of extraction, we expect a stable level of production and sale of coal, and this planned generation in our system sources will be according to the plan and will be stable. And we have to bear in mind the possibility of coal prices being reduced, but it will be correlated with coal prices on global markets. So this will depend on this long-term prognostics of $100. Now, for distribution, we've mentioned that we hope that we will have good investment, return on capital invested. This is why we have this investment plan being implemented, so we expect stability in this segment. Now, generation. This will definitely be a difficult year. Production levels will be a bit lower, and margins that we'll obtain, given that electricity prices right now are around 400 zlotys, then this means it will be lower. I showed you the CDS negative spread, but on the other hand, there is possibility to repurchase energy and also to have more energy that will be produced with a zero variable cost, and this is a huge opportunity for us. We'll, of course, try to optimize as much as possible, but also try to use the balancing market opportunities. Dynamic investments, implementation of the plans adopted, what I've shown you in our investment pipeline. This is important, and this year there will be a significant increase in comparison to the previous year, increase of production levels in renewables. And if we succeed, and if the conditions will make it possible, if the market environment will make it possible, then we'll be on a good starting point on that, the beginning of 2026. And then the sales and trade segment will definitely be emphasizing the importance of the green energy. We have half a tera of renewables sold. For the perspective of, in the perspective of 5 years, we'll be conducting intensive work. Let me just remind you that most sales happen between September and the end of the year. But we are already now offering things. We are active on the marketing side. We want the offer for the retailer, for the individual customer, and for business to be visible on the market. Now, the drop in energy prices, this might translate into this marginal decrease in individual margins. But what we are hoping for is that the market will really become a market again, that there will be no additional regulations or intervention mechanisms. And they were right, they are right in the face of huge volatility on the market. When we look back, when we are looking now at the year 2025, there seem to be no grounds for them to exist anymore. And we hope that this year these interventions and regulations will disappear. Now, on the regulatory side, I've mentioned that a lot of things will be happening this year. What is important for our group, it will be the power market, supplementing auctions for the year 2026, and especially for Kozienice power plant, but also additional auctions for until the year 2029 and for the following years. And they will determine our investment opportunities in gas. And we hope that there will be solutions and regulations for windmills, for there is this CESIRA, which is a big challenge. It's necessary, but it's time-consuming. And RED 3 and biomass. The question is, will the directive be implemented? Will we have more time? There will be this biomass regulation, and it will have a huge impact on the possibilities and directions of our development in terms of cogeneration of biogas in Połaniec, in Białystok power plant, but also will have a huge impact on the strategic project that is the greening of units in Kozienice. Thank you. Thank you. Transformation of Enea is taking place. Before we showed you the first part of our project, and we want to show you the second episode of the assemble of the turbine spades. It's very interesting because one spade is 64 meters in length. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time for questions, questions and answers. Now we would like to give you the mic. Please introduce yourselves. I can see a lot of hands. You can ask question when you have the mic. Thank you. I do have a mic. Rafał Zasuń. I have two questions. The first one is about the investment pipeline that you've shown. Do you think it's profitable to invest in solar farms in PV? Because many companies say it doesn't pay off due to the price dynamics. So they don't want to invest in big PV farms. They rather switch to the wind once the act has been unblocked. That's the first question. And now the second one. Would you be so kind as to say what you mean by the modernization of coal units, in Kozienice especially? Because we know what will be happening in Połanice, but what about Kozienice? Because a big part of the investment will go there as well. Could you please give us more details? Thank you. When it comes to investment in PV and in renewables, yes, indeed, we do realize what the situation is on the PV market. We have almost 23 gigawatts of installed PV power, and given the conditions that have been given, we'll have at least 3 more gigawatts added to that. As you can see, we have a bit over 70 megawatts. It's not a lot. We've started the investment. But what is important is that these projects are developed by us. Fortunately, there were huge price decreases. 1 year, 18 months ago, there were attempts to sell projects for 4 million zlotys. Right now, with big engagement and with optimal investment, you can get to the level of less than 2 million zlotys, or even between 1.5 and 2 million zlotys. And of course, we will be building photovoltaics with storage facilities just to increase the value of this profile, because with 300 zlotys for 1 megawatt hour, well, with these short-term investments that I've described, we have it all. We have calculated, we've done the maths. This is acceptable, and it's good profitability for this renewables segment. But we need to be very reasonable with spending capex, and we need to increase the value of this profile. We want to sell the energy by structuring that to the right, in the right way to the final recipient. Now, when it comes to modernization expenditure, let me just put it this way. There are many standard renovations, small, medium renovations, and complete renovations. They are necessary to make the units work. Now, the technical longevity of our 200 units is for 9-10 years more. But in order for that to be possible, so that the technical supervision office allows for that, we need from time to time to review that and to renovate these blocks. So I've already mentioned that it's a few 100 million that you have to spend annually for this work on coal units. This is something that will make it possible for these units to function for the years to come. Okay, next person, please. Marcin Martowicz, good afternoon. I have a question. On the slides, we could see that 140 megawatts in wind is in acquisition. Could you tell us something more about the project? Is it just one project, or a few of them? Will that really happen? What stage is this investment at? Now, something that also that you said about an expenditure this year, that you could do that on your own balance sheet. Does that mean that you are planning EBITDA at the level of 8 billion zlotys? That would mean an increase from this 7 billion. One more question about this tariff application. Do you think that the price will be higher or lower than 500 zlotys? I will start. When it comes to the balance sheet, we have a two-fold strategy. 107 billion zlotys. Out of that, 67 billion, we can afford that. We can do that from the balance sheet in the perspective of 10 years. But for 40 billion, we have to look for additional financing sources. So we've started cooperation with PKO IB, and we'll be on the lookout for financing options. What we meant is that 8 billion that we want to do this year is part of this 67 that had been planned under our own balance sheet. And now I would like to answer the other two questions. For acquisition first, yes, that is true. We've been working on acquisitions, and I hope that soon we'll be able to give you the results. And There are also many projects that will be ready in a few years' time, but we are interested in them right now. So wind, as I've said, now the onshore wind technology, this is something that takes a lot of time to develop. Sometimes it's even more than 7 or 8 years. This is why we've been looking for it, and this is why we've been developing our own projects. Now the question about the tariff price. Will the price be higher than 500 zlotys? Let me put it this way. When it comes to 2025, right now it's 622 zlotys, and it will remain so for the time being. If we are called to change the tariff as of the 1st of July this year, or effective later, then we'll know what level we are talking about at all. Let me just remind you, and this is important, let me just remind you that the price of 622 zlotys, which is the tariff price right now, well, this is the price that was lowered last year by 100 zlotys. It was lowered as of July the previous year. And this price is supposed to cover our costs. And in 90%, we've incurred the costs of the energy until the end of the June. So we've hedged our position fully because it was difficult to speculate will the prices be higher or lower. This is part of our procedures, contracts that we sign, and risk management. So 622, this price reflects the energy costs for the year 2025, but these costs were incurred until the end of June 2024, and this price also reflects the margin that is supposed to cover the loss for the second half of the year 2024. That was more than 100 million zlotys. But for 2026, everything depends on the price of the electrical energy, but I don't think it's real below 500 zlotys as a final price. Unfortunately, the question is asked without the microphone. If in April regulations remain unchanged, if we are obliged to make this kind of an application, we will. And we are in constant dialogue with the Office of Energy Regulation, and right now the price is 622 zlotys. Next question. Just to finish the answer, we've presented our calculations and our costs in detail. What did it cost us to pay for energy, the rebalancing, customer service? It's over 300 million zlotys for individual customers. We've presented all the calculations. We've shown how the tariff price for 2025 is shaped, and we've presented the perspectives with certain preconditions for 2026, but I cannot go into details right now because it's kind of an internal discussion going on right now. I think first we need to have this application to change the tariff. In order to do that, then we have the whole process of establishing the tariff price if it was supposed to be changed as of the 1st of July. And the result will flow from specific calculations. I am deeply convinced that the regulator, the president of the Office of the Energy Regulation, will analyze the costs in detail, will take a look at the level of the costs, and will adjust the tariff price to the costs. this is what this mechanism consists of. The principle is that we incur costs accepted by the regulator. These are the costs of electrical energy purchase, balancing, profiling, our own costs, all kinds of capitalizations, SCRA, expenditures, etc. This is all taken into account. Then we make a balance sheet on the side of revenues, of what we had, what we could have, and then there is this price that is not detrimental to anyone. Next question. I wanted to follow up on what Maciek said. We all know that this year you're in the process of recovering the losses that you had last year. So the tariff for 1.5 years, you were supposed to recover the costs, and the government put you in a strange position because they asked you to prepare this new tariff application, and it is directly stipulated in the legal act. So either you present this tariff application, or the tariff will be lowered in the second half of the year, because it says about 90%. Correct me if I'm wrong. The answer, no, it's not like that. We have to make this tariff application, and of course we could enter into a dispute, but we don't want to do that. It's not possible. But not making this tariff application, or not concluding the process so that the tariff can enter into force as of a given day, for example, as of the 1st of July, would mean that we will not get compensation. We will act according to the law. We will participate in the process of submitting these tariff applications. It will not be one application. Now, on the side of analysts, Citibank, good morning. I have a few questions. Firstly, the acquisition of the wind farm. Could you tell us what the EBITDA was, as it was the existing farm? On the basis of what price this EBITDA was calculated? Is there any PPA? Yes, with whom? So could you please tell us more about the farm? 920 million. What did you spend that on? Well, firstly, we did not spend 920 million. We spent 868 million. Whether it will be more, we'll see once we assess the productivity of the farm. Now, the return rate, EBITDA, the return rate on the investment, IRA, MPV, they are favorable to us. They are satisfying. As I've said, the productivity of the farm is pretty good. The purchase price is within the average, or even it's in the lower price range for this indicator per megawatt, as it's around 10.5 million, and plus 400 for 1 megawatt, and 140 for megawatt hour, and it's good. It's a good result. And this farm has a PPA for some part. It will be converted by us. So we'll have all the electrical energy at our disposal. I will not be precise, but it will be around 230 gigawatts annually. So, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you take the forward price, then if I want to close the PPA on the market, pay as produced, it's around 300 zlotys. You had 250 gigawatts, let us say it's around 70 million. So you paid 11 and plus the EBITDA. Is that this kind of an indicator? Is that still a market kind of a wind farm? This is what the market is afraid right now when you study CAPEX, because you take part into competitive auctions with other state companies and you overpay. Could you please confirm what the EBITDA was? What is the predicted EBITDA in the perspective of, let's say, 2 years? Because I can imagine that the price in Poland is like in Germany. Right now in Germany is 65 euro.
First of all, I need to deny what's just been said. We're absolutely not talking about 300 zlotys as a price. we will absolutely not be selling energy to anybody from this wind farm at 300 zlotys. We will not be selling it at 400 zlotys either. Like I said, the whole energy from this farm will end up in the green portfolio. It will be structured and it will be sold on the retail market. Today, the levels on the retail market are from 460 to 600, depending on the client group and the type of product, what the contract deadline is. And this is how we want to manage this energy. We are absolutely not intending to sell this energy at 300 or 400 zlotys. That is number one. And I do apologize, I don't remember, I cannot tell you what the EBITDA is, but the yield is definitely good when it comes to the renewables segment, and I do not believe that today the issue of acquiring such a wind farm, well, let's remember that acquisition of a ready-made operational wind farm also eliminates a huge risk, investment risk, technological risk, time to market risk. So in times of delays in the capex timetables, I think this is an absolutely profitable transaction. It's beneficial market transaction, and I am convinced that both from the point of view of a business center, new Enea Nowa Energia, it will be positive and beneficial to the EBITDA of the company, but also from the perspective of the group, it will generate the margin on the sale of this energy generated by this wind farm. All right, one more question before I give over to my colleagues. The repurchase of energy, could you please explain whether it's just for you that this effect where you can sell and repurchase on the spot, or is it for all the energy? Are you selling something when you're in the money or out of the money and then repurchasing? Why would it structurally work just for you, not for anybody else? And why would base be different? This is part of your profitability that could evaporate at some point, couldn't it? The repurchasing of electricity is something that's been present always. 10 years ago, as well, you sell a certain profile in the energy jargon. You can say that you purchase bands for units in specific hours. Now, we didn't have a lot of renewables 10 years back. So this repurchase was done in off-peak hours, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 a.m. and on Sundays and during holidays it was about 200 hours, where definitely it wasn't profitable to produce, but it was profitable to repurchase. So if an energy generator sells the energy from a specific unit, then they can either generate it and then provide it on the market, or you can repurchase. Now, in order for a repurchase to take place, you need to sell the energy first, right? So if it is not contracted, regardless of the profile, for a specific hour or a specific unit, then they will either not generate it and not sell it, or they will generate it and sell it. There is nothing else that can be done. Now, if somebody has sold, then depending on whether it's profitable or not, they can repurchase it, they can produce it. Now, if the cost per unit is higher for a specific hour than the price available in the market, then more likely than not, the offers will be put in such a way so that we can repurchase this energy. And that's what the whole business is about. I believe that the scale, the volume of the repurchasing will slowly but increase in a stable way in terms of megawatt hours, because inadvertently this energy, if you have the volatile zero cost, there will be more of this energy available. So I cannot imagine that we can generate energy if it's available at 100 or 200 or 300, or even if the cost is negative. Now, there will be such situations where operators will ask us to generate, but that's a different type of situation. That's forced. Mr. Puchalski. No, let me ask a question. I wanted to ask you about the acquisitions. Do you then imagine that the price cap that you have paid for this farm, that's a cap, the maximum cap that you're capable of paying on the market, or can you imagine paying more? Briefly. Yes, of course, we do not believe that it's a maximum cap. It's all going to depend on the economics. If, like it's been said before, I have a revenue of 300 zlotys per megawatt hour, I will want to buy a farm for 6 million per megawatt. If the prices of energy grow, then the market and the technology and the cost of such a farm will also grow, right? We know how this has changed before. The capex outlay over 15 years on wind turbines has changed so much. There have been such at 6 million, such at 13. Now the average level is about 9 million to 11, 12. But you need to expect that it'll still be cheaper. Whether it will be cheaper in half a year or in a year, well, we don't know that. It could also be more expensive, couldn't it? So the market will balance the price. Can you see the availability of such wind farms? Very, very scarce, I would say. And you are perfectly aware that the whole business of wind turbine development has basically, since 2016, has been put on hold, 95%. A lot of these projects are in an early stage of development. There are some projects that are available for acquisition, but they are definitely very much limited. The gas units in Kozienice. Can you imagine that if you do not win the auction, a supplementary auction, you will still be going ahead with the project? And at what stage are we when we're looking at selecting the contractors? Match ball. We cannot imagine otherwise. And another question concerning Bogdanka, the mining, the extraction this year. Could anything change in terms of increase? And another scenario, anything new? Any new prospect for the ownership structure, or does it stay unchanged? The second part is not for me to answer, but for the volume, just like we said, speaking about the results, we have learned the market, we are understanding it, and we are adjusting our needs to the abilities. So we don't see any risks in this topic. For ownership structure, we are not predicting any changes. I think what we have right now is satisfactory. Mr. Kucharski? Santander, Mr. Puchalski. First question on distribution. You did not deliver the capex last year. This year, the capex is increasing significantly, but I'm looking at your strategy, 40 billion over 10 years. It's not very high, is it? So I'm thinking the regulator has a floor of 7.5 plus something for delivering the investments. Aren't you afraid that you might be punished, quite simply, with lowering this in distribution due to insufficient spending? That's the first part of my question. And I've heard about 11, 12 million, 7, 8 of 3 companies. Did I miss a communication from Enea how much it will receive from the RSP PZP? Or has it not yet been disclosed, and why? All right, investment. There is a floor on the level of 80% of performing your investment plan, and this is what we fought for last year. We told you what the reasons were for that. One, organizational, and I think also the habits that such organizations have is to plan in an annual span. So I approved the investment plan, I implemented in 1 year, which means that at the end of the year there is an increased level of expenditure which increases the risk. Let me just recall that we are putting in practice very large projects such as replacing meters, etc. Unfortunately, because it's not helpful, it's not proving to be helpful. We buy from PZP, the tendering procedure is lengthy. There are shifts in time which could trigger some problems. So we have triggered some measures. We contract the investment plan from the point of view of the development plan, so in the 5-year perspective. We're not just thinking about investments for this year, but we're looking at multi-annual investments. We're monitoring these processes. We're implementing changes in the purchasing structure. We're introducing more flexible market. We talk to contractors. We do all of that to be able to complete our investment plan. So I cannot imagine that we should have the same problems this year as we did last year. We will be enforcing the performance of the contracts we already have, and that's 80%, and we are all active in the remaining 20%. We're quite determined, the market needs it. So there need to be some changes in distribution in the grid. The grid needs to be more flexible so that we can connect next sources and so that we can avoid decommissioning the existing ones. Now for RP, it's our last strategy, but we believe that the information we will communicate to you in late April, early May will be good news. Not different to what the market standard is. We're at the end, somebody has to be. The applications are analyzed one by one. We will just take the rest. It would be good if we could. I think that this is the last stretch now. We really are finalizing our deal with the BGK, and I think that we're also requesting some subsidies. We'll be applying for those, and we're hoping we will get some. Last question. And just as for the strategy, one slide was missing here. What about the dividend? When are you going to offer one for our shareholders? There wasn't a slide on the dividend, but we do understand the expectations of the market very well. We hear what you're saying to us. We're analyzing this. It's not the time. This is also the ownership decision, but we are analyzing this. Thank you very much for your questions and responses. Early this week, Enea launched the image campaign, Enea and much more. The protagonists would be the ambassadors of Enea, Aleksandra Kałuska, Olympic champion from Paris, and Natalia Partyka, who has many times won the Paralympics. But that's not all. The music was composed by Leszek Moszczer, an exceptional artist, who was also present in our festival.
Każda z nich wymaga energii. Energii do pracy i po pracy. Energii do nauki i do działania. Energii, aby osiągać swoje cele. A rolą Enei od lat jest dostarczać ją tobie każdego dnia.
Mnie? Mnie? Mnie?
Wszystkim. Jesteśmy dumni, że możemy was zasilać coraz lepszą energią. Z gniazdka i z natury. Odpowiedzialną i odnawialną. Aby nigdy wam jej nie zabrakło do wszystkiego, czego potrzebujecie. Enea, energia i wiele więcej.
I hope we will never run out of energy. Many thanks for participating in our conference. I thank the management for the presentations and responding to all the questions of journalists and analysts. Before I invite you to our next conference, let me also invite you to our investor chat with Mr. Marek Lelonko in the investment zone at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Please watch and ask questions. And now, let me invite you to our next conference. We will see you in May.